Tonight we are going in-depth on the violent summer still underway when it comes to crimes involving teenagers in Tulsa. Take a look. Here are some of the incidents. On June 19th, multiple teens were shot at a large get-together in the middle of the night at Crybaby Hill. On June 21st, a large party involving teens erupted into gunfire. Then June 27th was, of course, the Juneteenth festival shooting in Greenwood. Then on July 11th, a 14-year-old was arrested for a home invasion and stabbing. And on July 29th, a 15-year-old shot a 15-year-old at the St. Thomas More Church Festival in East Tulsa. In nearly all of those instances, and even a few more, the suspects range in age from 14 to just 20 years old. Joining me tonight to speak unedited about why he thinks the teens are killing each other and why he believes it's time to prosecute some parents as well is Tulsa County District Attorney Steve Kunzweiler. Joining me on the program today, unedited, is Tulsa County District Attorney Steve Kunzweiler. Steve, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
I know that we had that news conference earlier this summer about the cutting down on the crime in downtown, but we've still seen kids being arrested for homicide. I think the youngest is 14. I know you can't talk about the cases as you prosecute them, but what is going on with the kids?
Yeah, I think it's a very disturbing trend. I think it's a combination of factors. One of the things that I have been most concerned about, to be honest with you, is the impact of the McGirt decision. There is a vacuum of the ability of the federal government to prosecute younger people under the age of 18. Now, they will take on major crimes. It's very hard to handle those kind of cases. I don't think the federal government is equipped to handle juvenile delinquency, especially with regard to people who may be Native American. And I don't know really what the tribes are doing in that vein either. The state of Oklahoma has long been the entity that's handled the delinquent cases. And so if you have an absence of oversight, you're probably going to end up seeing some elevation of crimes on the juvenile end. But I've also seen a lot of cases, to include the one you're making reference to, in which we have to be able to have parental involvement in these things. I mean, if you have a 14-year-old kid who's out after hours like that, what are you doing as a parent? So I've asked law enforcement if there is the ability to hold somebody accountable as a parent for their kid who's committing delinquent acts or committing violent crimes. I'd like them to bring those kind of cases to me, because it's unacceptable to not be able to account for your kid who's 14 or 15 or 16 years old and they're out on the streets 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning.
I was gonna, so many avenues to take. Let's start with this. My concern is we are in that agreement with the Muskogee Creek Nation, and we are asking them to enforce a curfew. Is it my understanding there is no curfew on tribal law?
Correct.
Okay.
That law it is applicable solely to somebody who's not a Native American.
Well, are you concerned a child's just going to learn to say I'm tribal?
Well, if they're an Indian child, I think that's the argument. That's a whole other area. I think that agreement impacts greatly state prosecutions. I'm going to have to be pulling those cases to see if I can go ahead and file cases under the O'Brien decision, which is a decision the city of Tulsa fought long and hard for, to say, hey, if you're a member of an Indian nation but not on the reservation that you committed the crime, that decision says that the state has jurisdiction over that. So, for instance, if you're an Apache Indian coming into Oklahoma driving drunk and you happen to either be on Cherokee or Muskogee Nation territory, I should be allowed to go ahead and prosecute that case. The argument from the city of Tulsa by the agreement is they want all things to go down to the tribes. I disagree with that.
Let's talk about the parent issue that you mentioned. We've seen with school shooters more parents are getting prosecuted. Is this along the same lines of, or do you even have to have that connection of you bought the gun?
Well, I think the first issue really is, why is your kid out after dark, right? I mean, to me, that's a parental supervision issue. It may involve child neglect. It may involve contributing to delinquency of a minor. We have way too many folks who apparently don't care what their kids are doing after dark. And so, if I have to get their attention and hold them accountable sometimes for the delinquent acts that their kids are committing, I think that's an area the city of Tulsa should be investigating. If they bring me cases, we'll certainly review those and probably file charges.
What is it? Is it the gangs? Is it anger? Or I know you don't have a tell-all crystal ball for you, but what is the common thread here?
The gang dynamic is kind of fascinating. I'm hearing reports now that you don't have kind of what I would say is some of the more entrenched gangs. Sometimes we have smaller groups. They just kind of form up on their own and are kind of meandering about the community. And so I've seen some of that. As a matter of fact, I think the case that I'm getting ready to prosecute in September, where they had the little 12-year-old boy who was shot a couple of years ago on January the 1st, it seemed to be two smaller, I guess what I would call subsets of people who were getting involved in anger issues or whatever that you might want to call that with another group of kids. They're not resolving it like we used to back in the old days. I mean, the phrase back when I was growing up was knuckle up. You know, now it's just grab a gun and shoot. So there's a lot of moving parts in this thing. Part of it involves a deterioration in our culture, right? I mean, if you don't have a mom and a dad working hard to make sure that their children are learning the valuable lessons in life, well, they're going to learn it from somebody. And you certainly don't want them learning it from a 15 or a 16 or a 17-year-old who might be somebody they aspire to be like, right? You need a parent actively involved in those lives of these kids. And so it's frustrating for me to be dealing with parents who somewhat play a role in the delinquency of their kids because they have been absent. They're letting them do whatever they want.
Does going back to school make this scarier, or is it a more controlled environment?
I'd much rather have them back in school. Okay. I mean, at least there's a bit of a controlled environment, and we got some rules to the game. But over the summer hours, I mean, we saw it. I mean, apparently they're going unchecked.